street skateboarding exists as it does now because of Rodney Mullen. Rodney Mullen invented all of the modern street skating tricks. I mean, he's the godfather of all that's current.
And we watch him and just be like, he's doing stuff that no one has even thought of or could do if they put their mind to it.
Rodney Mullen did more for the actual act of skateboarding probably than anyone in the history of the sport.
By constantly pushing the realm of what is possible, Rodney Mullen has permanently changed the sport of skateboarding. His legacy began in Gainesville, Florida in 1977.
My dad, he was a dentist, and he would always say, look, man, I just treated a guy last week who had head trauma from going down this hill. There's no way in the world you're going to skateboard. Just do something valid like golf or tennis or baseball. But one night, I came down crying, and could I please, just one last chance, So he goes, okay, but only if you wear full pads, and the first time you get hurt, you have to stop. So New Year's Day, the surf shop was open, and I went there and got my first board. My sister was a surfer, and so she hung out with the whole surf crowd that would surf on the weekends. And then during the week, they would do a lot of slalom and set up these ramps. So I would watch those guys and just think, wow, they're cool, This is independent, there's no coach, there's no nothing. So I picked up really, really quick. But of course, I'm compulsive, so that's all I can think about. I just focus, and you get good really fast.
After just 1 year of skateboarding, Rodney was sponsored by a nearby shop.
Rodney rides for Inland Surf Shop out of Gainesville.
He did well in local contests, but was often uneasy around crowds of people.
Hard to emphasize this enough that I was not used to people. Probably spoke most of the dog.
Here you are on camera right here. I didn't get to catch your freestyle. What place did you get?
I was tied for third with that little GNS guy.
All right.
Skateboarding is something that is so it talks to me. It's an interaction with something almost, alive. It's because it changes according to you, and that's it. It's my friend. Yeah.
At age 11, Rodney's family moved to a farm outside of Gainesville, Florida. With the closest neighbor 2 miles away, Rodney lived in near isolation, but this only served to encourage his obsession. The rural environment began to shape Rodney's skating into a more specialized form, using only flat ground. This later became known as freestyle.
It's just the cows in the three-car garage. If that's your only world, So, okay, what can I do with this? So freestyle kind of came from that, but freestyle wasn't really defined at that time.
We weren't just freestylers, we were just skateboarders. But we'd enter flatland contests, and that was called freestyle. We also might enter high jump. We might do slalom. We might do downhill. We might do bull riding too, all in the same day, and we'd enter every event.
As they structured it, it got more and more toward just little tricks, and then the guys who skated pools moved into vert, and the guys who organized the routines moved more into freestyle, and that's when it became delineated.
As he concentrated more and more on freestyle, Rodney progressed faster than ever. Soon, many established pros began taking notice of him.
It was obvious that he had spent a lot of time in his garage, I would guess, or somewhere, just practicing many, many hours each day, you could tell.
Probably the most crucial time, maybe in my life, was July in '79 to that August in '80. I think it was probably the most creative time for me, where I came up with most stuff, like helipops and Caspers and all these things. They all happened in that year.
By the time he entered his first pro contest in 1980, his very technical brand of skating had already left most of the dance and gymnastic-oriented freestylers far behind.
So I go out there and I'm looking at everyone, and because I hadn't seen anyone and they didn't seem very good. And then I look at Steve, and yeah, he's gnarly. So it was between us. I think I won because I got little kid points.
His upset victory at the Oasis contest over legendary pro Steve Rocco was more proof to the skateboarding world that Rodney was a force to be reckoned with.
The precision and consistency he did things is just unparalleled. It's hard to get mad at something like that. He was going to take it to a level that, you know, I couldn't take it to. Skating was just his life. It's all he wanted to do.
But just as it was taking off, Rodney's career almost ended because of an odd promise he'd made with his father. In order to be allowed to skate in the Oasis contest, he would have to give up skateboarding when he returned home.
And what had happened, I had won, and then I came home and I was packing away all my stuff to treasure for the rest of my life, thinking that was it. And then the magazines called, and the companies are calling, and then my dad was like, well, look, I guess they're putting money into you, and so I have no choice, but just know that this is very temporary. And that has echoed in my ears more than anything, that this is very temporary. Take it as your last chance.
Rodney's sort of like a mule. The harder you pull him, the more he digs his heels in. And his dad was always trying to pull him away from skateboarding, which means Rodney clung to it even more.
After gaining recognition for his victory at the Oasis contest, Rodney turned pro for Paul Peralta. He was made famous by Paul's breakthrough videos, but still spent much of his time in obscurity, skating alone in his family's garage.
All he wanted to do was figure out how to do new things with the skateboard and new tricks, and he didn't care if anyone else was doing it, if anyone else thought it was cool. He just wanted to see what was possible.
Although too technical for most, Rodney's innovations began to influence pros who were also pushing the limits of skateboarding.
I learned finger flip lairs on vert because I was inspired by Rodney doing it. And I wanted to take some of these things that he was doing and try to learn them in the air, you know, in the pools. That was the first one I did that was directly linked to freestyle.
One of Rodney's simpler innovations that completely revolutionized skateboarding was the flat ground ollie.
Even on vert, when ollies were first invented, Alan Gelfand didn't really hit his tail, he just kind of scooped it. And so when we would try to mimic that on the street, we would just do it without hitting our tail and barely get anywhere, and Rodney figured out how to snap it and pop it up. I'm sure that he was the first one who ever did a flat ollie that was over like 6 inches.
If that's all he ever did, he would still have to be at, you know, top of the list as far as who's important in skateboarding. But his list of tricks doesn't stop there, you know? 360 flip, kick flip, heel flip, that's all Rodney Mullen tricks.
It's crazy because I never knew. I thought Jason Lee invented the 360 flip, you know? But I didn't know to watch a video 10 years before that and see the first one. I've come to learn it, you know, a couple of years ago that Rodney Mullen invented every trick that I know how to do. He was just pushing himself physically and mentally and opening new doors.
From the very beginning of his career, Rodney's progression began to put him in a class of his own.
He just started overtaking everyone at such a high speed, no one could ever catch him.
He was the first skater that I'd ever come across that was committed to his craft, dedicated to it, believed in practicing, believed in going out and getting better.
The thing that's amazing is just the fact that he wouldn't be just holding back and doing just basic tricks to win the contest. He'd be doing stuff that no one had ever seen before and doing it consistently.
By the late 80s, Rodney had gained popularity with a more mainstream audience. He was the star of parades, international tours, and even appearances on television.
I remember in '86 was when it was really dawning on me that skateboarding was big. And then I go on tour, and everyone, there's so many people. And I'm just like this pet on parade. That was the weirdest thing about skateboarding, not so much being a star, but just being surrounded by so many people that were looking at you.
And tonight he's here on our stage to demonstrate some of his truly incredible skateboarding skills.
So please welcome skateboarder extraordinaire Rodney Mullen.
Despite all of his success, Rodney's father still insisted that skateboarding was not a legitimate career. Taking this into consideration, Rodney began to contemplate retirement.
By then I was in college and I was doing so much for Swatch watches and they were flying me all over the world. That's how I was getting most of the money that I had. No one bought freestyle boards. And I remember thinking, wow, this is it. Grow up. And Steve calls me. He was like, Rodney, look, this